It was a beautiful day on the island of Soda. All the engines were working hard, pulling passengers and freight. Miss Jenny and her machines were extending the siding of the track. Sir Topham Hatt came to see Ivanhoe at Farquhar Sheds. I want you to collect some supplies and take them to the construction site, he said. Yes, sir, said Ivanhoe cheerfully. He was happy to work with Miss Jenny's machines. Diesel had been listening. It's time for my plan, he said naughtily. At the construction site, everything was going well. Miss Jenny will be proud of us, said Ivanhoe. Indeed she will, replied Byron cheerfully. Diesel snuck up behind Ivanhoe. Whoa, cried Ivanhoe. Diesel! Oops, said Diesel. Sorry, though he really wasn't. Duck had been watching. I must tell Sir Topham Hatt, he said. Go, Duck, shouted Nelson. Make us proud. Sir Topham Hatt was at the Diesel Works when Duck arrived. Sir, you have to come to the new construction site, he said. It's an emergency. What happened? Asked Sir Topham Hatt. Diesel pushed Ivanhoe off the track, said Duck. Sir Topham Hatt was cross. Well, take me there. Yes, sir, said Duck. Sir Topham Hatt stepped into Duck's cab and Duck set off. But when they arrived at the construction site, they saw Harvey, who put Ivanhoe and the flatbed back on the rails. Thank you for rescuing me, Harvey, said Ivanhoe. You're welcome, Ivanhoe, Harvey smiled. We just need to relay the ballast, said Ned. And now the construction site will be delayed, said Isabella sadly. Fair enough, said Sir Topham Hatt. Duck, I need you to find Hector. We need him to bring us some more ballast. Yes, sir, smiled Duck. Duck was very proud. I can do it. I can save this solar construction site. But when he arrived at the docks, there was no one to be found. Where is everyone? Asked Duck. Then he heard a familiar whistle. Oh, it's good to be back, said the familiar voice. There, arriving was Thomas the Tank Engine, with a different look. Thomas! Exclaimed Duck crossly. No, he's helping the Diesels again. How could he? Oh, be quiet down there, said Airy. We don't want to get caught. Indeed we won't. And Bert? Well, ever since I volunteered to be Diesel's second command, he gave me this golden paint. And now it's time for my revenge. To a yard, shouted Thomas. And Airy and Bert followed him. How could Thomas betray us again? Said Duck angrily. He is one of the nastiest tank engines I have ever seen. Psst, whispered Captain. Thomas and Airy and Bert are coming for you. You must find Hector. Where is Hector? Asked Duck. He's right there, said Captain. Right, replied Duck, and he left. But then he thought about the construction site. Such a shame that the project has to be delayed. he said sadly. I hope it gets completed soon. Just as Captain predicted, Hector was standing behind the buffers. Hector, said Duck happily, I'm glad to see you. Me too, Duck, Hector smiled. What would you like me to do? I'm taking you to a ballast hopper, replied Duck. You're going to bring some ballast to the construction site. I've been delighted to. Wait, what's that down there? Asked Hector. There was Flying Scotsman, Thomas, and Harry and Bert all together on a bridge. Oh no, exclaimed Duck. They found Flying Scotsman. I'll ask you for the last time, shouted Thomas crossly. Where is Duck? Where did he go? Who is he with? He's not going to answer your question, said Harry. He's just not that type of engine, added Bert. He probably doesn't know anyway. I'll see about that, said Thomas, and he bumped Flying Scotsman very hard. Tell me what you know. Flying Scotsman looked nervously at Thomas. Don't give me that look, shouted Thomas. I know you know something, and if you don't tell me, I'll find out by force. Just then, Thomas noticed that there is the ocean under the broken bridge. Perfect timing, said Thomas cheekily. All right, speak now, or forever you hold your breath because you'll need it. And Thomas began to force Flying Scotsman into the edge. His water tank fell into the water and was swept away. There we go, said Thomas. See, that means that I need business. Speak up, I can't hear you. Thomas, is this really necessary? Asked Bert. Just let the engine be. This is getting way out of hand, added Harry. I want answers, and Diesel needs answers, shouted Thomas, and I'm going to get them. And Thomas bumped Flying Scotsman again. His coal tender fell into the ocean. No, said Duck quietly. No, they can't do that to him. Thomas is not nice, but he certainly wouldn't do that. Enough, said Thomas. One last chance, my too tender friend. Flying Scotsman, still nervous, but holding his ground, didn't say a word. That's it, shouted Thomas. Cannonball! And he shoved Flying Scotsman into the water. He was immediately swept away by the current. Duck was horrified. He had never witnessed anything awful as that. Even Hector was traumatized for what he had seen. What was that for? Exclaimed Harry. We need him to answer our questions, not drown in the ocean. That was uncalled for, said Bert firmly. He didn't do anything to you. He deserved it, said Thomas. When I want answers, I get answers no matter how I do it. Just then Daisy arrived right beside Duck. You have to get out of here, she said. Thomas is coming after you. How do you know? Asked Duck. Captain told me, replied Daisy. Now you better run before they get you. Duck thought about the construction site, and then he thought about Miss Jenny's machines. Very well, he said, and he went away. After Hector had been filled with ballast, Duck arrived at the site. You won't believe this, sir, said Duck. Thomas had pushed Flying Scotsman into the ocean, and now he was swept away. Ivanhoe and Miss Jenny's machines were shocked. We must rescue Flying Scotsman, said Ivanhoe. We'll do that later, replied Sir Topham Hatt. Meanwhile, Thomas spotted Daisy. What are you doing here? he asked. I wanted to speak to you, replied Daisy crossly. I don't like it when you push one of the famous engines from the mainland into the ocean. It is bad for my swerves. Well, who cares about your stupid swerves anyway? Duck is mine. No, he is ours. And Daisy raced away. Come back here, Daisy. And Thomas went after her. Back at the construction site, it was time for Duck to leave. I want you to take Hector to Nafford Yard, said Sir Topham Hatt. Yes, sir, replied Duck, and went away. And Ivanhoe, I'm sorry that Diesel pushed you off the track. Now let's get revenge on him. Sir Topham Hatt stepped into Ivanhoe's cab and Ivanhoe set off. Then he pushed Diesel off the track. Well done, Ivanhoe, smiled Sir Topham Hatt. No, snapped Diesel. It is not the end of me. Should I keep an eye on him, sir? Asked Ivanhoe. No need to, replied Sir Topham Hatt. He's going to be stuck here for a long time. Now let's find Duck and tell him the good news. While the machines are still working, George arrived. How'd you like me to help you? Oh, no thank you, said Ned politely. We're doing fine on our own. You're refusing to let me help you? Pathetic. None of you are my favorite anyways. Get lost. Miss Jenny's machines were upset of what George said. I am so sorry, said Miss Jenny. George is being extra grumpy. And George went crossly away. Why is George being so mean to everyone? Asked Alfie. Who knows, replied Jack. We should just ignore him for a change. And that is what I'll do, smiled Alfie. Duck was taking Hector to Nafford Yard, but Daisy was in his way. Look out, she cried. Daisy crashed into Hector and Hector went straight into the junction. I am so sorry, said Daisy. I hope you're okay. Oh, yes I am, smiled Duck. Just then Thomas came to a stop and saw that Daisy had saved Duck. I'm out of here, he said, and he went backwards. Oh, this is all my fault, said Daisy sadly. I wanted to save you, but I failed. No, you didn't, said Duck. I'll take you to Nafford Station. We can have a word with Sir Topham Hatt. Wait! Don't leave me here, shouted Hector. I saved the construction site. Am I going to take you to the works again? Asked Harvey. You need to be more careful. Soon Duck and Daisy arrive at Nafford Station. Perfect, said Sir Topham Hatt. That's all of them. Then Duck spotted Bowler and Spamcam. What are they doing here? He asked. They kidnapped Alice and Mirabel, said Bill. But me and Arthur had stopped them. And don't worry, Duck, your coaches are safe. Then Sir Topham Hatt spoke. My railway is not your playground, he said sternly. You have your own railway and you must stay there. I want you all gone right now. Wait, called Duck. Don't send Daisy back. She saved me from Thomas, Harry, and Bert. I would have been caught if it wasn't for her. Sir Topham Hatt thought about this for a moment. Very well, he said. Daisy can stay here. Daisy smiled. Thank you, Duck, she said. And Dennis, I'm sorry that those Diesels have been treating you poorly. You can stay here if you want. Dennis smiled. Thank you, sir, he said. And Ivanhoe, thank you for rounding up those diesels. You're welcome, sir, Ivanhoe smiled. And the rest of you, I want you gone now. Diesel snarled. This isn't the end of me, he said. Just you wait and see. That evening, Sir Topham Hatt gathered the engines at the sheds. We're going to miss Flying Scotsman, said Ivanhoe. He did a great job saving Duck by not using words. Indeed he did, said Sir Topham Hatt. Tomorrow I will send Captain and Bulstrode to look for him. And Daisy did a good job too, said Hugo. Duck smiled. Tomorrow, I'm going to see that the construction site is completed. And all the engines smiled. The next morning, Sir Topham Hatt came to see Jack and Alfie. The construction site of the siding was completed. Well done, Jack and Alfie, he said. I'm very proud of you. Oh, thank you, sir, said Jack. Now we can go home, added Alfie. And Jack and Alfie went away. Then Sir Topham Hatt came to see Ivanhoe and Fergus. What do you think of your new place to sleep in? He asked. Oh, it was excellent, replied Ivanhoe. Thank you. Then Sir Topham Hatt stepped into Duck's cab and Duck left. They went to the bridge and Captain was looking for Flying Scotsman. Nothing yet, sir, he said. I'll just have to keep looking. Amazing, said Sir Topham Hatt. And if it doesn't work, then we'll have to replace him. Duck felt sad. He's one of the famous engines, he said. Indeed he is, replied Sir Topham Hatt, and we will never forget him. And finally, Duck took Sir Topham Hatt to Nafford Station. When he arrived, he and Sir Topham Hatt saw Daisy and Dennis. We're going to Diesel Works for our appointment, said Daisy. Oh, that's great, replied Sir Topham Hatt. Have fun, you two. And Daisy and Dennis left. And Duck, it's time to go to your branch line. Oliver and Toad miss your company. Right away, sir, smiled Duck, and he went away.